Now, my fellow Americans, there's an old saying that nothing spreads so quickly as a rumor. So I thought it was time to speak with you directly, to tell you firsthand about our dealings with Iran.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 times politicians got caught lying on live TV.
I've been repeatedly assured that no rules were broken.
For this list, we're looking at the most memorable times politicians were dishonest on camera. These leaders distorted facts and were later found to be lying with sometimes historic implications. Did we forget an infamous political lie? Let us know in the comments below. Number 10. Anthony Weiner's photos. New York Congressman Anthony Weiner's career and personal life slowly unraveled over the course of a tumultuous few years.
It was a hoax. It was someone sending a picture of a Weiner on Weiner's account. It's one of the jokes I've been getting since I was 5 years old. This was a gag. This was a joke that someone committed on me to try to distract me.
After he sent an explicit photo to a 21-year-old woman via Twitter, he blamed hackers and suggested the photo had been doctored.
My system was hacked. I was pranked. It was a fairly common one. People make fun of my name all the time. When you name Weiner, you kind of get that.
After more photos emerged, Weiner came clean, admitting that he had sent salacious images to several women. Apologizing to his family and supporters, he resigned his seat in Congress in 2011. He tried to reignite his political prospects in 2013, only for more sexts to be released, dating from after his resignation. His wife divorced him, and he later served time for transferring obscene material to a minor.
Congressman Anthony Weiner heading to prison. The New York Democrat was sentenced to 21 months for sending obscene messages.
Number 9. LBJ and the Gulf of Tonkin incident. In August 1964, U.S. President Lyndon B. Johnson cited two alleged confrontations in the Gulf of Tonkin to escalate the United States' military presence in Vietnam.
Renewed hostile actions against United States ships on the high seas in the Gulf of Tonkin have today required me to order the military forces of the United States to take action in reply.
However, it turns out the second confrontation never happened. Despite growing doubts around the incident, Johnson's administration chose to rely on misinterpreted communications.
Our government is united in its determination to take all necessary measures in support of freedom and in defense of peace in Southeast Asia.
In the years since, the subsequent Gulf of Tonkin resolution has been widely criticized as the flashpoint for the ensuing war. LBJ would later decide against running for re-election in 1968, partly because of his fading popularity.
And I will not accept the nomination of my party for another term as your president.
Only in 2003 was it revealed that the second attack didn't occur, and that the administration knew about it for years. Number 8. Rob Ford on his drug use. Rob Ford's tenure as the mayor of Toronto took an unexpected turn after rumors surfaced in 2013 about his drug use.
This past week has not been an easy one. It has taken a great toll on my family and my friends and the great people of Toronto.
Allegedly, someone was trying to sell video evidence of Ford smoking crack to the media. A belligerent Ford told the press that it was, quote, absolutely not true, and later called reporters, quote, maggots.
And my colleagues and the great people of this city have been exposed to the fact that I have been judged by the media without any evidence.
In a prepared statement at City Hall, he insisted that it was all made up. Well, guess what? The video did exist, as did a second. Ford refused to resign, but had basically all his mayoral powers stripped away from him.
Have you purchased illegal drugs in the last 2 years?
Yes, I have.
Number 7. Reagan on the Iran-Contra Affair. In the 1980s, officials in the Reagan administration facilitated the sale of arms to Iran, violating an arms embargo in a weapons for hostages scheme.
The charge has been made that the United States has shipped weapons to Iran as ransom payment for the release of American hostages in Lebanon.
The U.S. government planned to use some of the money to fund the Contras, a right-wing rebel group in Nicaragua known for terrorist attacks on civilian targets and other human rights abuses. Ronald Reagan was a vocal supporter, After the scheme was exposed, Reagan admitted to transferring weapons to Iran, but also insisted that accusations were, quote, utterly false.
The United States has not made concessions to those who hold our people captive in Lebanon, and we will not.
Officials destroyed documents or withheld them from investigators, so we might never know exactly what Reagan knew. But suffice it to say, most people agree that he had some culpability in the affair.
Every time an American hostage was released, last September, this July, and again just this very month, there had been a major shipment of arms just before that. Are we all to believe that was just a coincidence?
Number 6. Bolsonaro denies forest fires. Nicknamed the Trump of the tropics, Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro is no stranger to scandals, or to being caught lying. In 2019, Bolsonaro blamed a surge in forest fires in the Amazon on indigenous people and environmental groups.
President Jair Bolsonaro has a theory about the fire's cause.
I am under the impression that it could have been set by the NGOs, because I had asked for money.
He also claimed that fire does not spread in the Amazon because it is wet, accusing the media of spreading fake news.
Bem como por ser floresta úmica, como em grande parte dos senhores, não pega fogo. Então essa história de que a Amazônia arde em fogo é uma mentira.
A wealth of video and satellite evidence showed otherwise. In fact, Bolsonaro had reduced protection for rainforest lands to facilitate slash-and-burn clearing. His policies had also emboldened illegal land grabbers. His false statements reaffirmed his support for agribusiness at the expense of environmentalism.
When Brazil's Space Research Center reported an 88% increase in deforestation in June, compared with June last year, its director lost his job.
Number 5. Bill Clinton denies affair.
These allegations are false, and I need to go back to work for the American people.
Bill Clinton's relationship with White House intern Monica Lewinsky took center stage in his second presidential term. The scandal culminated with a 1998 press conference where the president famously uttered that he, quote, did not have sexual relations with that woman.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time.
However, Lewinsky had DNA proof in the form of a stained dress, and Clinton eventually ate his words, admitting to a, quote, improper physical relationship.
I must put it right, and I am prepared to do whatever it takes to do so. Nothing is more important to me personally.
The House of Representatives thought it was serious enough to impeach Clinton for perjury and obstruction of justice, but he was acquitted of all charges in 1999 and made it through his full term. Number 4. Boris Johnson and Partygate. In 2020, much of the world went into lockdown due to the global coronavirus pandemic.
From Thursday until the start of December, you must stay at home. You may only leave home for specific reasons.
The social isolation and economic losses were difficult for many. So you would see why people would be incensed to learn that their own leaders were violating restrictions. In December 2021, it emerged that UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson and his administration had held several social gatherings in government buildings.
The pressure is on Boris Johnson to answer allegations that he attended a boozy lockdown party in May 2020.
On the defensive, Johnson claimed that the gatherings were work-related and that, quote, no rules were broken.
What I can tell you is that all the guidelines were observed, continue to be observed.
A police investigation contradicted his statements, describing events that included excessive drinking and disrespect towards cleaning and security staff. Johnson ultimately resigned in disgrace.
Sorry. And I'm sorry for the things we simply didn't get right, and also sorry for the way that this matter has been handled.
Number 3. George W. Bush on Iraq. The Iraq War lasted from 2003 to 2011 and resulted in hundreds of thousands of deaths from violence and disease, most of them civilians.
To all the men and women of the United States Armed Forces now in the Middle East, the peace of a troubled world and the hopes of an oppressed people now depend on you.
And it all hinged on a lie. The Bush administration claimed that ruthless dictator Saddam Hussein had a, quote, massive stockpile of biological weapons and other weapons of mass destruction.
The people of the United States and our friends and allies will not live at the mercy of an outlaw regime that threatens the peace with weapons of mass murder.
The assessments of U.S. intelligence agencies did not support this view. Bush and others also worked hard to link Saddam to al-Qaeda. In fact, Saddam was hostile towards Islamic extremists, and the feeling was mutual. Colin Powell's speech to the United Nations, in which he made the case for invasion, has since become infamous.
Leaving Saddam Hussein in possession of weapons of mass destruction for a few more months or years is not an option. Not in a post-September 11th world.
The made-up WMDs were never found, undermining U.S. credibility for years to come. Number 2. Nixon says he isn't a crook. Richard Nixon became synonymous with political corruption as his administration's cover-up of the break-in at DNC headquarters went south in the early 1970s. Members of his administration ordered the botched robbery to take place at the Watergate office building in Washington, D.C. in 1972. After evidence pointed to White House involvement, Nixon assured people that he was, quote, not a crook in a famous speech.
People have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook. I've earned everything I've got.
In the following years, Nixon maintained his innocence even as his colleagues were called to testify in Senate committee hearings. On a White House tape recording known as the smoking gun, the president's true character came out, as it was clear he tried to obstruct the probe. His dishonesty prompted his resignation in 1974.
As president, I must put the interests of America first. Therefore, I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Trump's big lie. With over 30,000 false or misleading statements during his time in office, former President Donald Trump's difficulty with the truth has been well documented.
We think there's going to be a lot of litigation because we have so much evidence, so much proof, and it's going to end up perhaps at the highest court in the land.
After he lost his bid for a second term in the 2020 election, he refused to concede, claiming without evidence that the election had been rigged.
If you count the legal votes, I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us.
The courts threw out his team's 63 lawsuits after they failed to substantiate any of their conspiratorial claims. Recounts, some by machine and some by hand, confirmed Joe Biden's win and did not show evidence of widespread fraud. Trump's falsehoods about a stolen election inspired the Capitol riots on January 6, 2021. Nonetheless, he has continued to maintain the fiction.
All of us here today do not want to see our election victory stolen by emboldened radical left Democrats, which is what they're doing, and stolen by the fake news media. That's what they've done and what they're doing.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.